automation setup with Pro 1200s in a case combine. So we already set up in a previous video our grower farm field and our crop type. Now, up on the top we have these gears and wheat sheaves. That takes us into our automation. Before we get into that, we will see on run one that we are in automation. How can I tell? Number one, we have our pressure indicator over here on the right hand side. And we also don't have a button up here that says ACS save. So if I reach up and hit the auto button in the overhead console, I am now not in automation mode. And you can see my pressure indicator went away and I have this ACS save button. So I'll turn automation back on. Now, to do our initial setup, the setup is the same as the 50 series with the Pro 700, but it looks different. So we're going to hit this shortcut button. Okay, crop type, work condition, automation default. You can set up different conditions for irrigated or non-irrigated. I usually recommend leaving that as automation default because that has caused us issues with older software in the past. We want to pick a strategy. Best grain quality, performance, max throughput, fixed throughput. So most commonly, we're going to start on performance. If you want to know what those are, you can hit the question mark and it tells you. Performance. Automation control will gradually increase a set throughput target up to the target max engine load or target max ground speed if losses are low. Combine settings and ground speed will be adjusted to control grain loss as a first priority and grain quality as a second priority. Maximum throughput will do its best to adjust things, but it will not back off your speed if you're throwing out. So this may work well in some conditions. Other conditions, it'll chuck out the back and it won't slow down to control that. Fixed throughput will vary the ground speed to maintain a set throughput target. So it tries to more or less maintain the bushels per hour, kind of is what it does. I've had some good results with that in a few conditions, but like I said, most commonly I'm going to run performance. Target maximum ground speed. We want to set this to limit the ground speed for things that the combine automation system can't see. So that would be how your knife is cutting, roughness of the field, material coming over the back of the header because the table's just so full that the reel's pushing it out the back. You will limit things for that. So primarily header stuff. Target max engine load. We want to set this to control things to prevent plugging or almost plugging, slugging type situations. So if the load comes high enough, the combine will actually stop and clear itself, and it may not actually plug, but that is not desirable because the combine is starting and stopping. So at times you may have to back this down to maybe 90% to keep the combine running consistently, and it gives you that 10-15% buffer over top of your 90. So if you hit a hard spot, it can absorb that and keep rolling along. There have been times on tough mornings where I've started with this down at 60%, and then slowly throughout the day as it dried, I've brought it up to 80, 90, 100%. So depending on the crop and the conditions, I may start at 100, I may start at 90. Now, that is the basic tab. So the next step is going to the advanced tab. So initial settings, I always start from automatic. Threshing condition, I always start on easy. Even if it's hard thresh wheat, I see if it does it on easy. As I bring this up from easy to medium to hard, it restricts certain aspects of the automation. For example, easy, the range on the cage vane adjustment is 0 to 100%. Medium is 0 to 50%. Hard thresh is 0 to 0%. So your vanes will never open up. So we always want to see if it'll do it on easy first before we adjust that up. Adjust frequency, low, medium, high. If your crop is very consistent, you can run it on low. If your crop is very variable, run it on high so it reacts quicker to it. I usually start on medium, sometimes high, depending what I'm seeing when I look out the window. Feed rate sensitivity, I always start on high or very high. If you are anything lower than that, it'll probably be too sluggish to respond, and most people complain that it doesn't do what they want it to do. Rotor speed maximum 1150. We can tap out our top end. This would be more so for if we want to preserve straw to prevent it from overloading our shoe, or we want to preserve straw because we're trying to drop it and bale it. We can limit our max rotor speed here quite easily. Range configuration, I normally turn that on. That gives us some adjustment in the ranges tab that we don't normally have. Now this reset button, if we reset automation, it takes everything back to default and you start over. So if you tweak and play in here to the point where it doesn't seem to be working well, I will quite often get you to reset, put in some new settings, and start over. If it lost its mind, just doesn't seem to be working well, reset and start over. Sensitivity tab. So this is where we can set our sensitivities for thresher, sieve, tailings volume, MOG, which is material other than grain, and broken grain quality. There's also a reset button here to take just these back to defaults. Now, I'm going to use the sieve loss as an example. If your sieve loss funnel is reading low, but you go outside and there's lots of sieve loss on the ground, you are going to bring that number up to make it the funnel run higher. When the funnel runs higher, then automation will try to get it to come down, and it'll adjust and change things to what it's doing. If you do this in too big of a jump, the combine will go really slow and take a long time to figure it out. I like to bring it up a little bit at a time until I get it where I want. 65 may be the right spot, but if I put it right to 65, it might take a half an hour to get it to where I want. Where if I go from 53 to 58, then to 63, and then to 65, it will kind of step it up, and I find that works better. Same with the other sensitivities, just using that one as an example. Headland mode, when we hit shift and resume on our handle, we go into headland mode. We can have the fan drop, we can change our upper lower sieves and our pre-sieve. We can have them move a little bit on each headland. Some guys like that, some guys don't. I've been told that moving those sieves more often prevents them from sticking, seizing, jamming, bending, tweaking, and they may need less calibration by doing that. Up to you. On the ranges tab, we have some different ranges. Now we can reset them all back to defaults, but if we have some weird conditions that just seem strange or we seem to be struggling, we can go in and we can tweak some ranges. Now, for example, canola, maybe it's really hot and dry, we're struggling, the automation can't get the sample clean enough. We may go to our sieves and our pre-sieve, and I may go in and back down my maximum so that it goes to a smaller number. Now these are weird numbers for canola because I'm set to wheat, obviously, but I can actually limit my upper sieve travel so that it only goes to 7 mil or 6 mil from 4 to 6. We have to watch that we don't set these so tight that the automation can't do anything, but sometimes we do need to use our heads and restrict them a little bit. We can help you with that if you run into those situations. So reset takes it back to the defaults. Okay, so that's the basic setup of automation. Now when we're running it, we're going to see our funnels come up. These lines at this 70% point is when automation starts to take over. So if you're happy with your sieve loss down here, it's going to be really bad by the time automation tries to fix it. You want your happy point to be just below this black line. You know, that 60-70%, so that as soon as it starts to throw a bit out, automation sees it and tries to fix it and keep it under that line. So on a previous to automation combine, we would run our sieve loss sensitivity at maybe 30, where in this combine we might be 50 or 60, because rather than having our happy spot here, we want it up here. That applies to the other funnels as well.